Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Oops. Hey, everyone, this is Will. I run our customer org here. As always, we'll give everyone just a few minutes to log in here. And then we will kick off. All right. Let's see. All right. So we have a question from Tony. He's not on yet. I think Sabs, you shared that with hosts and panelists only. Can you reshare that chat with everyone, please? All right. All right, so here we go. So Murray, we have a case entity with an extension folder in a project that was created in V6. I imported the project to version 7 as a test and was presented with an error related to ShouldTrackValues setting. I've since worked with support to determine that this is a new property that is a default in V7. Is there any information on what this property does? ShouldTrackValues. Let me allow you to talk. Murray, what ShouldTrackValues is on it's something on a case? I'm not familiar with this off the top of my head.
It helps if I unmute before I start talking. It's a case that has an extension folder. Okay, I've forgotten the terminology by now, but it's some kind of an extension folder.
Okay.
So there's one specific form where we allow the user to change certain values if they come in with a typo or they're too long for the file we need, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then on the way out, it updates those values. So on the output, we have update, and then I have certain specific things that it should update if they change it, and certain things that if they try to change it, it should ignore. Within those, up at the top of the properties, kind of like where the system properties are, not the elements of the data structure that you added, but above that where the additional properties are. There is now a ShouldTrackValues.
Okay, so let me create a case here. It's in the data structure designer?
No, it only happens in a form. It only happens in one form. I'm guessing because we allow them to update the case values from that form.
Okay. What's the ticket number that you submitted this into support under? I might be able to.
Good question. Let me find it.
So I have a case here. So here's my case. I can add a case. Once I allow myself to add it.
Okay, so I have a ticket number of T043009.
043009. Okay.
Of that was, I found the source of ShouldTrackValues. It is a default parameter that has been added to folder extension data structures in V7. And your payment transaction data structure has a folder extension attached in the flow.
Okay, my internal system is struggling here. Oh my goodness, 043. Member should track value is not map. Member should track values is not map. Transaction review. All right, this
Which
came
is the
from
form.
Andrew
Mhm.
Patterson. Okay.
It's the
Added
only
folder
place where it
extension.
shows up.
Doing what we did to rename that value on output from your form should fix. Oh, okay. So are you passing the whole case object or the whole full, I guess the case into a form? Like as an
Yes, we're not
input?
using. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so really quickly, let's see here. Let's see. So I have a form. I'm gonna create a new form. I'm gonna go to, I guess, whatever we call form input data now, which is I think active flow managed data. And in here, I'm gonna say current case. Oh yeah, that works. And then I'll search for my case that I just created, which is case test 1. Okay. Now, how did you get? So it was on the output of the flow,
Correct. So
right?
we had individual, case elements in here so they could review. A few
Right,
of them they
so
should be able to change.
put a text box in here. I can bind that text box to the case object somehow. How do I get access to this data now? How do we do this now? Outcome scenario. Do I have to just name it the same? That's not nice. Let me see if I can do this. Current case. I'll name this thing current case. And I'll just say dot entity folder ID. Doesn't like that. What doesn't it like? The dot in folder ID is invalid. Required help. I'm actually not sure. I'll have to let me see if I can't follow up with Andrew about that.
Okay.
So load some data to give it a chance. I found the source. It's a default parameter. So that we've added to folder extension data structures in V7. And your payment transaction data structure has a folder extension attached in the flow. Doing what we did to rename the value should fix this validation error.
And I'm fine with ignoring it, but
we're trying to figure out what it, yeah.
What is it supposed to do? Maybe I want it. I don't know.
No, it's probably just driving some behavior that we don't, that really just happens to be exposed in the flow engine, but it just handles something automatically. I don't think it's anything that you should have to know how to deal with. The thing I'm struggling to figure out here is how to get the object to pass into the form in V7, which I'm admittedly unsure about right now. Oh wait, that takes that in as a key. Oh my god.
Yeah, you
So
can
it doesn't. Go ahead.
You can probably map it from the outside in the designer. Just have it, so exit from here, go to the designer, see if you can map it.
Yeah, it's not that simple, man. I mean, I know how to map the data. The question is, we used to be able to pass whole objects in as input data, and then you could bind the properties of that object down to the property level here. And I was assuming active flow managed data replaced the form input data, but it does not appear to operate in the same way as current case cert does not show up as something that I can map into from the outside, which doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, Maria, I'm not sure. Let me follow up with you on that one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll have to get some more information. And I'll ask Andrew to follow up on that ticket for you, please.
Okay.
Yeah. A couple open questions there for me.
All right.
Let me just make a note really quick and ask him to follow up with you that you still have some open questions there. Okay, where's the channel I want to find? Come on.
And we did check
Okay.
documentation, and that phrase does not appear in documentation.
That doesn't shock me. So I think that's something we'll figure out. Let me get with him. We'll figure out, gift you the information. We'll make sure it gets in the documentation as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Sorry, I don't have an answer for you ready at hand here. Okay, let's go to Kinjurdi's question here. And the question is, I want to understand how I can make an advanced data grid editable. I actually don't think that the advanced data grid has inline edit capability currently. If someone
yeah, but there is, like, you can see the inline option there in the data grid.
Yeah, let's look at that.
It's not working.
Let's see here really quick, which is inline edit. Now let's create a flow here. Now we'll pull a form and we're going to fetch some entities. So let's just fetch accounts. And then we'll pass the results to our form here. Now let's not do that. Let's create a new form. And I'm going to modify the layout here really quickly. Just have 2 columns. And I'm going to put the old data grid on the left. And then I'm going to come find data grid. And I'm going to put the advanced data grid. Oops, excuse me. Which of these is advanced? Data grid advanced on the right-hand side. So this will be old grid. The type will be account. Info only will be inline edit. And the data name will be old grid. And I'll have to put a button on here. Okay, data grid advanced, the type will also be account. It does show grid mode info only. Okay, input data name is new grid. All right, and then we have to, this one is going to populate all of our properties. In the advanced data grid, we have to go into the report designer. And here we'll just do email address created by, created on. Save that. Grid mode will be inline edit. And the output date will be new grid. Okay, now back into my flow. And then I'm going to pass entity results into both of these. Save this and debug it. So I have accounts on both. Now I know the old data grid works. So if I click into person type, I can get the option, I can get the drop-down list if it's a enumeration or a value list. Otherwise, if it's a string, I can just type into it. So this won't give me inline edit, but it does give me right-click actions where I could use to edit it. So the question is, when we created the advanced data grid, did we leave in inline edit unintentionally, or like did we just copy over all the settings? Like, I'm not sure if inline edit is supposed to be a feature of the advanced data grid as designed currently. Now, what you could do, which may not be ideal, but you could use show actions. And then if I were to save this and run again, it's not inline edit, but I can get right click. I can control the right click action context menu. So here I can edit this by clicking in. Here I can right click and I can use either the default actions if it's a default type, or I can use custom. I can create my own actions here in a configuration folder, and I can get an edit account pop-up that I can then use to edit the information. So as it's currently constructed, I mean, clearly, the thing is I need to check. I need to check with the development and QA teams to see if we are, see what the behavior is expected to be here for inline edit on advanced data grids. So right now, I think the options are, you can either use the older, the historical data grid, which is what you see on the left-hand side, or you can use the advanced data grid with right-click actions to be able to make your edits. Those are going to be your 2 current your two current options. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well,
Okay. Any other questions about that? Let me ask Carlos. I think you're on, right? Can we follow up and figure out if that's if the advanced data grid is supposed to support inline edit? And if it
I can
is,
ask. Yeah.
if it is, let's get a DTN. If it's not, we just need to get a DTN to remove inline edit from the grid mode options on advanced data grid, please.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so that's a question. Now I have a question from Tony. He's not on. Does anyone else have questions right now before I go into answering a question for someone who's not currently on the call? Yeah, hey Terry, go ahead, man.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Quick question. Is it possible to send, excuse me, encrypted emails from decisions? Or do you need to link into some sort of email server?
Yeah, you'd have to do all that through the email server.
Okay, that's what I thought. But I just wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, I know you can send with TLS and other sort of like a secure.
Yeah.
Where's send email at? Like if you look at the server settings, you can use SSL, use implicit SSL, and do username and password and things like that. But we just use like a Rebex third-party library to do all of our mail work. And if that doesn't meet the need, then yeah, there'd be some other, I don't know, technology at play. That's a good question. I guess the question is, does use SSL on just having your SMTP server set up so that use implicit or use SSL, either or both are set to true, meet the requirement of the question you're asking. And if it does, then yes, right? If it doesn't, then there's no other additional way to send encrypted emails that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Now
cool.
you can encrypt. You can do custom encryption, like if you needed to encrypt attachments. Like there's a PGP module where you can encrypt strings against keys that you can control. So if it's more about like the contents of the message or the attachment, you have some flow level encryption opportunities with the PGP module that you can make use of.
That's helpful, yeah, because then we could basically encrypt the content, and then somebody else would be responsible for decrypting on their end. But okay,
yeah, theoretically, and that's just in the features page. It should just be the PGP module, and it just gives you a few steps that should live under integrations that allow you to encrypt and decrypt against a key file, and you just generate a PGP key using like PuTTY or some other utility. And then you reference that in the flow as like a constant or in some other way.
All right, cool. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you bet, sir. Anybody else have any questions right now before I jump into a question from Tony? Nope. All right, I'll go ahead. How can we well, some of these I think we need to have a conversation about with him. How can we get granular process monitoring? Now, this is a good question. Let's see. I don't know. We've got some probably not thorough document about monitoring on our site. Yeah, best practices for application level monitoring. We do have one that talks about how to handle different types of errors. We need a good code repository. Can decisions use other repos? So yes, we can, because decisions files are just text files, we have a very small set of customers that use Git as their repo because we do export our files as XML. That you can't look at the data, you can't diff the data in any way, but you can use a traditional code repository to do your version control, but you can't manage conflicts at all. You can hook into DevOps pipelines. It is a bit of work, and we have a custom doc that support can send that walks you through some of the details about how to leverage check in and check out behaviors from the repository to allow you to integrate with, as well as some custom flow work to make use of Azure DevOps CI/CD pipelines. And we have in-flight process issues with clustered environments for single node. Yes, we have in the most current versions of 6, we've rewritten the message, the sort of cluster communication backend to sort of make some of these problems go away, where if you deploy into one node of a server, the other node doesn't always get the updated contents. And so that we currently, and even with the current, me putting on my support hat here, or my user hat, even with the changes, we've still seen some times that we're struggling to track down, where we can't isolate exactly why the import doesn't go cross cluster. And so right now our best practice recommendation remains to import and cycle the other nodes when we're deploying work into a cluster. Understand that's not really ideal. And then I think the big change coming is with Decisions version 8 coming in Q1. When we run in containers, we should be able to cycle those containers very much more easily on deployments, which should hopefully obviate this issue. So a couple notes there. Probably we need to answer those in more detail when we have Tony on a call. What other questions do we have? No? Kind of a What other questions might we have from the community today? Okay, I guess we're close enough to 30 minutes. We'll call it a day if there's no questions. If you guys have any questions just before we end here, assuming you might be typing one out, just use the raise hand function. If not, if we don't see any of those, we'll go ahead and close up shop and let everyone get back to their lunch and the rest of their day. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And I think Noah is in tomorrow, Sabrina.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks, everybody. Appreciate the questions. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.